so let's start with the four pillars, right? Earth, air, fire, and water. It's the four classical elements that form the foundation of all matter in pretty much every single magical practice that exists on some level. Four is the number that brings the formless into form through the four pillars, of course. So now sacred directions, of course, is part of this. So you have your north, south, east, and west. It is the four cardinal directions that anchor every circle cast. Now, not everyone uses sacred circles. However, even if you're not using sacred circles, north, south, east, and west. I don't care if you're calling in Goetics or if you are casting as a Norse pagan. You are probably using the cardinal directions for anchoring. So every ritual space, every compass rose kind of incorporates the sacred directions. Four really creates the container. Crystals, candles, herbs, sigils at each of the four cardinal points of your working space. This sort of seals and activates the container. Again, we were talking about four is the container before any work begins. Four corners equals four witnesses equals fourfold power. And also the protection and shielding element when you're casting as a third party. Some of you are third party practitioners. And so using anchoring items, I can't stress enough about how important that is. Um, there is the four phase casting method. So this is where you can structure the letter S today is get me. Structure spells across four stages. So we have intention, which is usually affiliated with the air or east. We have ignition, affiliated with fire or south. We have release, which is affiliated with water or the west. And we have grounding, which is affiliated with earth or the north. So you can structure your spells across these four stages, right? Moving through all four ensures the work is complete on each of those individual planes. So I think this is a very nice method to use, especially if you're newer to energetic manipulations or newer to energetic transmutation. It's a very good structure to build a practice off of while protecting yourself while you are figuring out the ins and outs of how your practice is going to manifest for yourself and others for that sacred directional work or casting circles, however you do it in your practice. We have the earthly order, the four seasons, the four phases of the moon's major turns, the four stages of life, right? I know a lot of times we just kind of simplify it into the triple goddess, the three stages, but there's four. Four is how the cosmos sort of organize time and cycles into something us as humans can inhabit, right? Makes sense. And then we have the divine architecture piece with the number four. You know, in sacred geometry, the square and the cross are symbols of divine order made manifest. So spirit stepped down into matter, right? Four is where heaven meets earth. So I don't want to say four is symbolic of the crossroads, but kind of in a divine spiritual crossroads sense. So there's definitely divine architecture with using four in magic and divination. They tend to be rigid. They don't like change. They're very resistant to change. They tend to be workaholics, and part of that is because they're kind of avoidant sometimes. So they use work as a way to avoid, um, which is like a weird coping strategy. Um, they do have difficulty with intuitive leaps. Like I said, they have a lot of swords energy. They're very brainy, very logical. So listening to their inner compass, that intuition piece might be harder for a life path number four, because they really fall into the brain, right? The mind. Um, there is a tendency to over rely on the proven path, even when spirit is calling for something new. So these are people that are going to walk a road because that road has been walked before, even if everything in their life is saying, don't walk on that road. Because again, you know, they're thinkers, they're logical, they're looking at historical reference versus their intuitive compass. So there's that.